Hello and welcome to Top Story. John McCain, the Republican nominee for November's US presidential election, is spelling out his credentials as a world statesman this week, meeting national leaders in Iraq, Jordan, Israel, France and Britain. The visit comes as his Democratic rivals are still caught in the increasingly debilitating struggle for the Democratic nomination. McCain's supporters clearly believe, too, that whoever wins in the battle between Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, neither will be able to match McCain's authority in foreign policy. Speaking in Baghdad, he noted that it was his 8th visit to the country on US senatorial business. McCain has made clear his commitment to keeping US troops in Iraq despite the unpopularity of the war at home. He's also signalled his intention to work more closely with European leaders if elected, an intention underlined by his visits this week to Paris and London. Well, joining me now to discuss the McCain tour and any clues it might provide about his foreign policy intentions is Sally Shelton-Colby, the former Deputy Secretary-General of the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development. Thanks very much for being on Top Story. McCain clearly stealing a march on his Democratic rivals here once they're caught in this punch-up for the nomination.
He is indeed. That's exactly what's happening. The Democrats are still trying to find a candidate, and McCain has got the opportunity to demonstrate his presidential experience and his presidential capacity.
I mean, it's something that's regarded as a strength, a McCain strength rather than a weakness as well. It's an opportunity for him to shine.
That's right. McCain is emphasizing his national security experience and his national security abilities and trying to use this trip to the Middle East and to Europe to demonstrate that the Democrats are still squabbling among themselves and to emphasize that the two Democratic candidates don't have the experience that he does in foreign affairs.
He's rather mocked both of them. I mean, Hillary Clinton has tried to stress that she has more experience than Obama, but McCain has mocked the pair of them.
He has, and he does, in fact, have a good deal of national security experience. But I would just caution that the polls in America are showing that Iraq, specifically, is not one of the top priorities for American voters. It's a very dodgy issue for him, isn't it? That's correct. It's the economy that is the number 1 issue, the number 2 issue, and the number 3 issue. And McCain himself has admitted to the public on a number of occasions that he's not very strong on the economy. So his national security experience could cut both ways.
And I suppose going to Iraq could certainly cut ways. It's still very unpopular in the United States. Although I suppose people recognize that there's a certain amount of bravery on his part in coming out and stating quite so clearly, look, like me or hate me, this is what I think on this issue.
Yes, one of McCain's strengths is the perception that he's a straight talker, that he will call it as he sees it, so to speak. And that is, that's been a plus in many respects. Having said that, he has talked about the U.S. possibly having to be in Iraq for 100 years. That is not a plus as far as the American voters are concerned.
It's not what most American people want to hear at the moment.
That's not what the American people want to hear at the moment.
And he's not gaffe-free either. He was in Jordan yesterday, and at a press conference he said that Iran had been helping al-Qaeda in Iraq, and suddenly it was whispered in his ear, actually, no, Iran doesn't help al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is a Sunni organization, and Iran is a Shiite country. So things like that still could work against him a bit.
He's not gaffe-free.
I think we've got a bit of actuality we can play on this, I think.
Well, it's common knowledge and has been reported in the media that that Al-Qaeda is going back into Iran and receiving training and are coming back into Iraq from Iran. That's well known, and it's unfortunate. So I believe that we are succeeding in Iraq. The situation is dramatically improved, but I also want to emphasize time and again, Al-Qaeda is on the run, but they are not defeated.
You said that the Iranians were training Al-Qaeda.
I'm sorry.
Training extremists.
I'm sorry. The Iranians are training extremists, not Al-Qaeda. Not Al-Qaeda. I'm sorry.
We can all make mistakes, I suppose, but people are going to pounce on that in the States, aren't they?
Yes, the Democrats have already pounced on that. I think it's a gaffe that can largely be chalked up to fatigue.
He was pretty quick to correct himself.
He was, and he knows the Middle East.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to be fatal.
Yeah. He goes on to Israel. George W. Bush has been criticized for his failure to engage sufficiently early enough in the Palestinian-Israeli peace process. Do you think McCain, if he were to become president, would push harder on that?
I think so. Now, it's a mixed picture for McCain. McCain is probably the Israeli candidate. He's been very, very strong on Israel, and clearly is much beloved by the Israeli government, Israeli politicians. But McCain is also very experienced, and he's smart enough to know that the Palestinian issue is the key to peace in the Middle East, more so than Iraq.
And on then to Europe, to France and Britain, and we've already seen him writing in the Financial Times, British newspaper, that the US needs to improve its relationship with its European allies, to listen more. Do you think that's going to be the message when he goes to France?
I think that's exactly right. He will emphasize the need for a more multilateral approach by the United States. But the Democrats are saying the same thing. So in that context, I don't think there's going to be very much difference among the three candidates. Another issue beyond the need to listen more that McCain will strike while he's in Europe is the emphasis on climate change and the need for the U.S. to take a different approach on climate change.
And to take a lead as well.
That's correct. And that will ring very true to European ears.
Yeah, so the French in particular have been calling on the U.S. Sarkozy made a strong appeal, in fact, when he was in the United States in the end of last year, that the United States had to take the lead on climate change in particular.
Yes, correct.
And McCain's going to be strong on that, do you think?
McCain has been one of the Republicans who has been strongest on climate change. And in this, he is obviously very different from the Bush administration. So McCain is not a traditional Republican in that respect. Look for McCain to take some positions that will be different from what one might expect of Republicans. He's taken a different position on campaign finance reform, for example. So he will be different from the Bush White House in many respects.
Different in many respects, but similar in others. He's still going to be selling Iraq pretty hard, and it's going to be a tough sell.
With Iraq, he will be marching in lockstep with the Bush White House.
Okay, and there we have to end it, I'm afraid. That's all we have time for today. Thanks to our guest, Sally Shelton-Colby. Join us again tomorrow for another edition of Top Story. Goodbye.